Hello, and welcome to Religion and Life. I'm your host, Ozzie. Artificial intelligence and robots might not be topics that you would think of for a program on religion, but recent research and scholarship have suggested that there are some striking similarities between technological advances and religion. Our guest today, Dr. Randy Reed, writes about artificial intelligence, and he's going to bring us some information that just might change the way you think about robots forever. Thank you, Randy, for joining us. I appreciate you're a repeat guest on our show and one of our best.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so I guess what begs the question is, you're a sociologist of religion, a scholar of religion, and you're writing about and researching artificial intelligence. So a lot of us wouldn't put those two things together. So maybe you can just start by describing in general terms what exactly artificial intelligence is and how you came to be interested in it in the context of religious studies.
Well, so artificial intelligence can really be divided into two different kinds. The one we have most experience with is what is called artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI. And that's the kind of artificial intelligence that is recommending shows to you on Netflix. It's the thing that is serving you ads on Facebook or Twitter. It's the thing that is ultimately running behind the self-checkout thing at the grocery store that then gives you a coupon for the kind of thing that you just bought, right? And all artificial narrow intelligence is expanding daily. It's expanding into self-driving cars. It's expanding into programs that are monitoring your sleep and monitoring your health and monitoring your food consumption and all these sort of things. And as a result of narrow artificial intelligence, what you're getting is a more customized, individually customized experience of the internet. So you're getting ads that relate specifically to what you're interested in. So if you're Googling things like I'm into cooking, so I'm Googling things about sous vide cooking. And I'm getting ads that are related to sous vides, right? And you may be Googling things that have to do with motorcycles. I don't get motorcycle ads. You don't get sous vide ads. I mean, and that's probably at some level good, right? And there's less noise in that respect and more signal because of that. On the other hand, there's a downside to that, which what scholars have noted is that while the algorithms want to give you more stuff that you like, so if you start Googling motorcycles on YouTube, you'll get more videos in your feed about motorcycles on YouTube. But they often tend to become more and more extreme. So you might start seeing more and more violence in your motorcycle ads. And when it comes to politics, what scholars have noted is that people have kind of step by step ended up in sort of conspiracy theories because they started Googling something that was sort of innocent to begin with. But as the algorithm wants to keep you engaged, it will give you more and more things that either outrage you or enhance you that you will watch, and that can often lead people into crazy things like QAnon or 9/11 truther conspiracies or things like that.
Right. And these kind of extreme beliefs, well, sometimes QAnon is sometimes described as a cult. So it sounds like these. This narrow artificial intelligence that you're describing is kind of leading us along a path toward a certain type of orthodoxy or belief structure.
Right. I mean, oftentimes it kind of connects to our beliefs and even tries to slowly alter them over time. And people who have family members who are in QAnon often have the same kinds of experiences as family members who are in sort of marginalized religious groups like Heaven's Gate and some of those sort of things, and have the kind of problems of isolation and rejection of debate and that sort of thing.
You know, it's almost, I've never thought of a machine in this way, but it's almost like the machine has a certain type of religious charisma that pulls you in, the vulnerable person in, and then leads them along a certain path towards extreme beliefs.
That's right, because it is ultimately motivated by what you actually will do, right? If you will watch a video all the way to the end, it categorizes it differently than if you just start it and then bail out of it. If you go so far as clicking like on it, it categorizes that differently. If you go so far as adding a comment, it categorizes that differently. And so that it wants you to have, I mean, because these are ad-funded systems, right? It wants you to be engaged for as long as it possibly can, so it will feed you more and more of what will keep you engaged. And if that is more and more radical ideas, that's what you'll get.
Is artificial intelligence like this, does it have the ability to learn? Is that what you're describing? Is there a feedback loop here that not only brings the person engaged with technology along, but is the machine itself actually progressing along a line as well? Yeah,
I mean, there are kind of technical aspects to it, but the quick answer is yes. I mean, ultimately, it's learning your likes, your dislikes, and trying to give you more of what you want and less of what you don't. And whatever will keep you engaged, it will continue to feed you.
Okay. So can it tap into the things we're doing in a day, not only the things we're Googling or searching for online, but how does artificial intelligence impact what we're actually doing throughout the day when we're disconnected from technology? So we're out exercising or praying or in church. Is there an oversight to those sorts of activities as well?
Well, and that has to do with technology that we have and that it's coming online. That sometimes there's a new book out called Spirit Tech, and that's about technologies that are precisely focused on sort of spirituality. And some of that starts with, you know, the Fitbit that I wear that counts my steps, or the app that I log my food into. Those too are using algorithms in order to try to help me optimize what is healthy for me. I have a sleep number bed, and it categorizes how well I sleep and gives me suggestions as to, you know, is my bed too hard? Is my bed too soft? Should I go to bed earlier? Should I go to bed later? Right? So that I sleep longer and therefore have a better health in that way. I mean, all of these are things that are starting to impact in our lives. We'll only see more of them. And the domain of religion, I mean, there are growing apps that are specifically related to religion that help you pray the rosary, or will take your confession, or remind you to pray, or to give you a Bible verse of the day, or and so sort of keep you engaged in the religion. If the goal that you give the AI is keep this person engaged religiously or spiritually, it will function in the same way that YouTube or Facebook or those other things do. It will work to get you to whatever you need to do in order to get you more engaged in religious behaviors. And some of this technology is starting to use brain waves. It's starting to use virtual reality. I mean, there's a whole sort of breadth of this new spiritual technology that has either started to become available or is going to become available, that will combine sort of this micro feedback of quantitative data with algorithms to ultimately, hopefully, enhance your life.
Well, at the risk of sounding a little paranoid, is there a point at which, if I want to direct my AI machine to help me develop my spirituality in a certain way. Perhaps I want to experiment with mysticism, and it provides feedback. Is there a point at which I lose control of this process, where I'm no longer directing the machine to assist me, but the machine takes over in a sense? Is that a danger, or is that just a conspiracy theory nonsense?
I think it's probably more complicated than that. I think that there is always a danger. I mean, that the machine will figure out what you want apart from what you consciously think you want, and that it will operate to enhance what it actually perceives that you want, and that will in some ways change your desires, right. And because it's circumventing sort of the rational process, and we do see this already with sort of the way that social media works. Some of the memes that get fed to people who are in conspiracy theories are specifically designed to sort of raise their internal threat detection, which is sort of a non-rational thing. You know, it's your flight or fight instinct, so that when you see a picture of somebody threatening a child, that you have an emotional response to that. Mm-hmm. So if that picture happens to be a politician that I want you to vote against, you know, if I am able to get the algorithm to give you more of those, I could change your perspective on that politician, and it would be less rational and more sort of instinctive, right? And so likewise, so to some degree, you could say the AI has kind of taken over, but it doesn't take over in the way that, you know, the Terminator movie or something like that. It's much more subtle, right, in that way.
It does seem like, though, that we are more or less, and maybe more now, and more all the time, collectively sort of giving up some of our own freedom over to technology and artificial intelligence, willingly so. Willingly giving AI charge of parts of our lives. Is there a sense in which this in itself is a process of making, I don't know, a religion out of artificial intelligence? Are we to the point where we adore technology so much that, and that we give up enough of our freedoms to an omnipotent being or an omniscient being to kind of watch over us and watch over our lives? Is this a kind of religion in the making, or a religion already made, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is fascinating. So one of the things I do in the morning is I work out using this virtual reality program called Supernatural, and what it does is it takes me to places around the world in 360-degree an experience, and I'm doing squats and I'm doing lunges and I'm hitting things in virtual reality with these bats that I have in my hand, what has been, and there is a coach that is all throughout the workout, sort of encouraging you. But what I've noticed is that there is also a kind of religious aspect to this, that there is a sort of order of service that happens, that there is a real focus on not just you breathe more so that you can hit harder, but things about your self-esteem, and you're a courageous person, and really kind of bridging the gap between physical fitness and spiritual fitness, right? That those things are connected, and you're probably familiar with our colleague Tom Ellis, who argues that spirituality in some level is really connected integrally with self-esteem. That those things are actually almost synonymous,
right?
And I think he would argue they are synonymous,
right?
But and this program also has options where the coach will meditate with you. And so it becomes a kind of religious is probably not the right word, a kind of spiritual experience, right, for the person, because you are physically experiencing strain, right? You're vulnerable at that because of that, and then you're getting these kind of messages that are all positive. I mean, they're all about self-esteem, but they are working with the same sorts of cognitive processes that religion works with. And so it becomes a kind of religion that is free of the content of religion. I don't have to believe anything about gods or demons or the creation of the world or any of that, and I can still have a lot of the benefits that religion would give me.
So the way you phrase that, getting the benefits of religion without the content of religion, sounds like what we talk about in religious studies when we talk about how religion functions, right? Not what religion means or what the truth of religion is, but rather how does religion function in the lives of believers? So religion manages terror, religion helps us cope with death, religion provides us comfort, hope, community. On an individual and social level, it monitors and coordinates behavior. Is this what we're talking about, that AI can actually take over some of the functions of religion, divorced from a belief structure?
Right.
Or maybe an alternative belief
right.
structure.
I mean, this is, I think, the combination of technology and artificial intelligence coming together can create a kind of religion without religion that will be very attractive to the people who are disinclined to be part of institutional religion to begin with, right? The nuns are a huge part of American society. The younger,
and by nuns, you mean non-affiliated,
right.
particularly millennials and Generation Z,
right.
not a Catholic nun, right?
Right, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
good distinction to make.
Okay, right.
Right. Those people who are not unaffiliated with any religion, who say, when asked what their religion is, they say it's none. On surveys, those are people who still have the desire for the things that religion often gives us, which is a community and a sense of something greater than ourselves, a desire for meaning in life, and that sort of thing. I mean, the religions have been successful because they have provided those kinds of things, right? And so with technology and artificial intelligence coming together, a lot of those things can be replicated, but you don't need to believe anything about the virgin birth, right? You don't need to believe any of the dogma that often comes with religion as well. And for the nuns who are, there's somewhere between around a quarter to maybe a third of the population in the United States, and those numbers are even higher with the millennials and Gen Z. Those are people who are going to be attracted to an idea of that can give them that religion. They're already very comfortable with technology, so a technology that can actually give them some of the benefits of religion without the political or dogmatic baggage seems like that's something that they're going to be very attracted to.
And this, as with much of what we're talking about, has a kind of two-edgedness about it, right? On the one hand, this religion without religion might help bring psychological and spiritual peace to people who have no other way of accessing that outside of organized religion. On the other hand, it sounds like this could be a real threat to organized religion. Is there a fear among people who are invested in institutional religion that this trend will kind of take over, if not replace, what we normally consider to be organized religious faith?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have kind of seen this with one of the stories that the authors of Spirit Tech, Wesley Wild and Kay Stockley, talk about is a guy who tries to start a church in virtual reality. And he tries to get support from his sort of local physical churches, and they want nothing to do with it, right? They recognize it more as a threat or as something that isn't real rather than as an opportunity. And I think that we we have seen that in the history of Christianity before, that religious institutions that sort of fail to recognize the way things are changing often get left behind. And those groups that actually embrace it, like the evangelicalism, there's an argument to be made that it was really able to grow in the 70s and 80s to its height in the early 90s because it embraced cable TV
right.
in a way that mainline churches did not.
And before that, radio even.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So at this point, though, it doesn't look like the evangelicals are jumping on this bandwagon. And what is happening instead is sort of spiritual entrepreneurs who see a way of engaging people in this sort of spirituality that doesn't have institutional religion, and as a way that can actually generate money. And so that may be the future for a large part of our young people, religious proclivities.
Well, you mentioned, where do you see this headed? You mentioned the future. I mean, is this a kind of sky the limit sort of thing? I mean, I know there are futurists out there who are kind of thinking through where artificial intelligence might take us, but specifically related to religion and spirituality, what do you think? Where's this headed?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Prediction is hard, particularly of the future,
right?
And it's hard to know where we're going to be in 2030 because no one really. I'm reading a book from 2016 that's predicting the future, and it's in 2020 is 2021. There's lots of things that are like, that didn't work out, or
right.
It was very different than you thought it was going to be. And I think one of the things that we have seen is that COVID has sort of changed things slightly. I mean, well, the numbers that came out from 2020 showed that there's kind of everybody kind of sat where they were. The nuns didn't really grow very much. Evangelicals didn't seem to decline as much as they had been, and actually mainline religion bumped up a couple of
during
points
COVID.
During COVID.
Interesting.
So and whether that will be the beginning of a trend, or whether that will be something that bounces back, sort of like after 9/11, there was a bump up in religion and then it came down. And it will be interesting whether those people who have, I mean, I think the thing about this exercise program that I use is that I didn't have to go to a gym, right? When we were locked down during COVID, I could exercise every day. I just strap on the helmet and have to have a clear space in my basement, and then I can work out.
You're gonna have to have me over, and I want to give that thing a go.
Yeah, absolutely. But and I think that if there is if we continue to have problems with pandemics, if there's more need for isolation, then a shift into what Facebook is calling the metaverse, which is virtual reality, seems much more likely to me, and it will grow, I think, progressively over time, even without that. But if we have more of that, then I think it will expand exponentially.
Well, it has been interesting to see how religious institutions have adapted over the past year to 18 months. Maybe not necessarily with artificial intelligence, but using technology to create different types of communities. So I can understand how that might be a part of the future of religious communities going forward. Right,
because that's getting people who might not be comfortable with technology more comfortable with technology, right? If you're zooming in or using Facebook to access your church service on a regular basis, and you continue to be nervous about that, then when there is an app that somebody says this can actually help your religious life, you might be inclined to say, well, I mean, I have some technological comfort now, so maybe I'll give that a whirl, and that can be part of that progressive movement.
Well, this is all just, I find it incredibly fascinating. We didn't get to robots, and we're about out of time, but sometime I want to talk to you about robots and what role I mean, robots are really nothing new. We tend to think of them as being part of our worldview in the present, but they've been around a long time,
Right.
In one way or another. So I guess my question is, this will have to come at a different time. You know, how much can robots become thinking beings with intentionality and free will, the sorts of things that we normally relate to human consciousness?
Yeah, I mean, I think the danger of robots is less about this question of consciousness and more about this danger of replacing workers, right? That already, I mean, there are robots that are interacting in your life that you don't even recognize.
Right.
That self-checkout that you're using at Harris Teeter, that's a robot, right? And your car is basically, that has adaptive cruise control, that's basically becoming a robot.
Right.
And so if we broaden the understanding of what constitutes a robot from the sort of humanoid thing like you see in the Terminator to these other things, really starting with the ATM, you know, the automated teller machine. These are robots that are part of our daily experience, and we just don't really recognize them as such. But they are replacing workers, right? I mean, at our local grocery store, there's now 6 cashier stands that are self-checkout robots that are controlled by one person, rather than 6 different tellers. And the only time you got 6 people who are manning the stands where people are bringing things in is when we're risking a snowstorm, right? That's when, but the self-checkouts are still going at full bore. They just need more people. And so those are the sort of things that are going to affect us culturally when people become less employable because of automation. And part of what I think COVID has also done is stimulate an investment in automation, because you want to, it's safer at that level, right? A robot or a drone that brings you your food is one less set of possibly virus-infected hands that is touching your food. And so there is a impetus towards that, and that may lead to more technological unemployment.
Well, this is all fascinating. I'm interested to read more about what you're doing. I won't worry about it until my robotic priest gives me virtual communion. But until then, thanks so much for coming and joining us today. I really appreciate it. This has been great.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for this week on Religion and Life. Join us again next week when we continue to explore the ways that religion affects our everyday lives and our culture. Until then, this is Ozzie Ostwald.